Hey everyone, Ranger William here from the Overmountain Victory National Historic Trail, bringing you another episode talking about the Partisans United, Patriot leaders in the pursuit of Patrick Ferguson. And what we're doing with this series is looking at a little more of the background, the biographical information, some of the key Patriot leaders who took part in the Overmountain Victory Trail, the campaign to the Battle of Kings Mountain, fought on October 7th, 1780. Not focusing so much on how they were involved with that battle, but looking at who these guys were before them. What did they do after that battle and even after the revolution? Now, in our first introduction, we talked a little bit about where the trail is today, the 4 states that this covers, the 330 miles of motor route. Um, we talked a little bit about the various jurisdictions these guys were coming through, and all the possibility for squabbling, why it is such a big deal that you have this level of cooperation among these various militia officers. Our first episode, we talked about Isaac Shelby. We talked about John Sevier in second episode. Episode 3 was William Campbell. And here, episode 4, we're looking at the McDowell brothers. Now, I chose to do these guys together. One episode with 2 leaders because they're brothers, but also because their military and political service really kind of tends to follow each other. They stick together pretty well for most of the revolution. So let's start out with these guys, Charles and Joseph. They are sons of Irish immigrants. Not sure where in Ireland they came from, if they were kind of Scot-Irish, the Northern Ulster Scots. But their father, Joseph McDowell Sr., and Margaret O'Neill were immigrants to the Winchester area of Virginia in the Shenandoah Valley. And it's there in Winchester that you get these guys born. Charles born October 18th, 1743, making him 37 at the time of the battle here, and his younger brother, Joseph Jr., being born on March 8th, 1756. Now, 1756 there in Winchester is a very hairy time to be there with the French and Indian War starting, so I'm sure there's some interesting stories there. Now, these guys are going to move down to North Carolina. Before the revolution begins, they're going to become established there on the banks of the Catawba River in roughly what's now Morganton, North Carolina, area then known as Quaker Meadows. And this is where you get a little bit of difficulty when you're doing some research, because there was another Joseph McDowell. You're going to see their uncle Joseph, known as Pleasant Gardens Joe. Some sources say it was their uncle, some say it was their cousin, but either way, another Joseph McDowell a little bit to the west, kind of following the Catawba River west. This is going to be Pleasant Gardens Joe, who is not involved with the Kings Mountain campaign. This Joseph Jr., our Kings Mountain guy, is known as as Quaker Meadows Joe. See, I got confused right there too. So Quaker Meadows Joe is who we have here with his older brother Charles. Now, looking at their military service, they get involved very early on. These guys are going to be involved in the 2nd Rowan County Regiment of militia when the war begins. Charles as a captain, Joseph serving under him. Charles gets a promotion, Joseph gets a promotion. So kind of staying in step through the military campaigns. Now in 1776, you're going to see them fight at out in eastern North Carolina, kind of near the Cross Creek area, Fayetteville, Wilmington. This is when you're going to have the campaign against the Scottish loyalists who live out there, the Battle of Moores Creek Bridge, campaign against them to kind of intimidate them from stepping up to assist the British forces. And you're going to see them also take part in the Cherokee War that summer of 1776. Notably, you're going to hear about the McDowells kind of being part of a small garrison of forded up settlers. Now, what that means is when there's a sign of danger, whole communities piling into a small fortified building together. The story is that you have about the McDowell brothers and only 9 other guys with 120 women and children kind of packed into this small cramped quarters for a couple weeks until they feel like it's safe enough that they can go back to their farms, that the British allied Cherokee warriors, their attacks have either been pushed back or they've moved on to another location. So that's going to be 1776 for these guys. 1777, you get a little bit of change. You get a new county created, North Carolina, flexing its political muscles, cutting up the kind of pre-revolution counties to make it a little more manageable for them. You have the creation of Burke County, North Carolina. So that's going to be in 1777. Charles is made the colonel of this county, and Joseph Jr. promoted to be the major of that county regiment. Now, these guys are going to be fighting in 1779. A couple years later, they're going to make the campaign down to Stono Ferry, helping oppose the British attempts to come from Georgia up into South Carolina. So, fighting down there on the South Carolina-Georgia border. And then as you enter 1780, you're going to be getting fighting in South Carolina, especially around the South Carolina-North Carolina border area, kind of the more western districts. One of these kind of notable fights does not go well for the McDowell brothers. It's the attack at Earls Fort. This is when you're going to have Charles, his militia camped there on the banks of the river, the North Packlet River. It's not too far from current Landrum, North Carolina, Landrum, South Carolina. But it's while he's camped there, bringing in all these other guys to join up. You've got some of Andrew Hampton's militia coming in, Elijah Clark's, James Williams coming and joining up. He sends Joseph Jr. out with a scouting party, but they scout down one road and not another. So that other road, here comes some of Patrick Ferguson's loyalist provincials, guys mounted on horseback with sabers, kind of some thrown together cavalry led by Captain Dunlap. In either a nighttime or pre-dawn attack, they charge across the river, attack the McDowell's camp, and cause great havoc amongst the Georgians, great casualties, including the death of Noah Hampton, Andrew Hampton's teenage son. This is possibly one reason that Andrew Hampton has a bit of a feud with Charles McDowell the rest of the war, does not really want to serve alongside with him. But you're going to see this fighting all over western South Carolina involving the McDowells. They're not going to be at the Battle of Musgrove's Mill, but it is from the McDowells' camp at Cherokee Ford on the Broad River. That's where you're going to have the Patriots gather together and take off from to go and attack there at Musgrove's Mill, that Patriot victory there. Now, that's going to be in August of 1780. When you look at that, Patrick Ferguson pursuing the Patriots up into North Carolina, the last little bit of resistance that Ferguson gets is going to be from Charles McDowell at the Battle of Cane Creek. He's going to make a stand on a wooded ridgeline. However, the Loyalist accounts of this battle say they find a little side path, a way around part of the ridge, surprising the Patriot defenders. Brief little skirmish ensues, and the Patriots retreat and fall back with casualties. So possibly due to this, what we viewed as kind of passive leadership, not being very aggressive, being surprised in two different times, this might be why later during the Kings Mountain campaign, Isaac Shelby wants to avoid Charles taking leadership of the command. Why Isaac Shelby suggests William Campbell be in command, not Charles McDowell, even though they are in Charles McDowell's district. They're in his jurisdiction. But Charles agrees. He backs down. He doesn't fight it. He actually is sent by the Overmountain guys to go find the Continental Army and see if the General Gates will select a general to come be in charge of their group. They request General Daniel Morgan, if possible, since they know he's now here in the Southern campaign. So Kings Mountain campaign aside, you see Joseph McDowell. Joseph Jr. is going to be leading his brother's men at the Battle of Kings Mountain, but then later he's also bringing them in to help Daniel Morgan at the Battle of Cowpens in January 1781, being some of those frontline sharpshooters or skirmishers of General Morgan's famous defense in depth that happens there. You see Joseph Jr. take part in a military campaign against the Chickamauga Cherokee in 1782. And then as the war ends, both of the brothers are going to take a big step in being kind of lenient towards the Loyalists. They want to rebuild their communities, not necessarily persecute their former enemies. Major political careers for both brothers. Charles actually got involved back in 1777 and 78, serving in the North Carolina House of Commons. He's going to be a state senator from 1782 to 1789. And in 1784, Charles is actually going to be one of three commissioners chosen to select a site and kind of lay out the city of Morganton, North Carolina, as the county seat for Burke County. Now, Joseph Jr., you get him involved with the Constitutional Convention for North Carolina, the Hillsborough Convention in 1788, and the Fayetteville Convention in 89, and he actually opposes ratifying the U.S. Constitution until the Bill of Rights is added. Then he's going to throw his support behind it. He's going to practice law in Burke County, serving in the state senate from 1790 to 1795, and he's going to be sent as a kind of a surveyor, part of the commission, to find the Tennessee and Kentucky border in 1791. Now, for a little while, Joseph Jr. is going to live in Kentucky in 1800, but he's going to move back to North Carolina in 1801 and die very young, 44 years old, February 5th, 1801, leaving behind his wife, Margaret Moffat, 2 sons, and 6 daughters. Charles is going to live a little while longer, passing in 1815 on March 31st at 72 years old. His widow, Grace Greenlee Bowman, he married there near the end of the war, who survived him. So that's a little bit of information about the McDowell brothers, Charles and Joseph Jr., Quaker Meadows, Joe. I hope you guys enjoyed learning a little bit more about these guys, these Burke County leaders on the eastern side of the Blue Ridge Mountains. And I hope you watch the other parts of this series to learn a little bit more about the Partisans United and how these guys came together, what skills and experience they brought with them to the Kings Mountain campaign. So I hope you enjoyed, and thanks for watching.